Here we go again with the funky intro. What up, y'all? Episode 10, man. Dope shit, right? Episode 10, we here, man. Like 10 episodes deep. What up, Dunny? Of course, we're gonna talk about the health segment, and also your favorite segment on how to approach them in part 10. You all gonna like this one. I really geek out on Silver Surfer, the 1998 Fox Kids Network series. And I geek out on the Inhumans, and we spent some time on the Defenders. And I talk about Floyd and Floyd Mayweather and McGregor. And I also give another special shout out to the late great Gregory. So check it out, man. My 10th episode is a little longer than usual, but enjoy it. Peace.
I like the rhymes.
All of us are born with the miraculous ability to determine the direction from which sounds approach us.
Let us venture into new and uncharted land.
People get shook up, when I'm introduced as God.
You got that good hair, too.
You're the first one out there with a dashiki talking that crap.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element, nah, take me out my element.
But anyway, for the show, what I'm sipping on, there's this company called Henry Hotspur, and they make ciders, and they make one hard pressed cider with ginger. That's really, really good. Now, I get it. Ciders are, when it comes to beers, and it's actually considered a wine. We're going to get to that in a second. But ciders are the new rave. Everybody's like drinking them. And there's so many. You can go to the store and see so many of them. And they taste very good. They taste very sweet. But for me, they don't have enough kick. I like my beers with kicks, with kicks. So anyway, they make a ginger version that's just really, 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 really good. I know I'm biased because I love all things ginger. If it got ginger in it, I'm all about it. So I highly recommend it. I know Trader Joe's has it. I know I'm not getting no money from Trader Joe's, but it'd be good if Trader Joe's hook a brother up. Right? I know I got beef with y'all, but it'd be good. But it's a really dope joint. What happened is a friend of mine has a coffee and a wine house. And she sells some of that cider. The what's it called? I'm trying to remember the one that everybody has, the hard cider. Anyway, I was like, yo, you got beer? She's like, nah, actually, it's considered a wine. I was like, oh, I guess the fermentation process is the same. So there's that. So that's what I'm sipping on for this episode. By the way, we need to stop calling our names, our given names, we need to stop calling them government names. And I know I get that a lot. Yo, man, don't be yelling out my government name. First of all, when you was born, however you was born, right? However you was born, when you was born in a C-section, came out feet first, at a swimming pool, whatever, midwife, whatever, the U.S. government or the state government did not come down to that room or pool or whatever and say, we're going to call you John Smith. No, sir. Somebody that loved you or still loves you and loves you very much or doesn't love you anymore, but at one point in time, they loved you enough to give you a name and a surname, right? It wasn't the government, so stop saying government name. Now, shout out to the nation of gods and earths because they say that name was called an honorable name. Why? Because someone or some people who loved you, still love you, might not be here to love you anymore, decided to think of a name and give it to you. And they loved you enough for that. So, yo, stop calling it government name. Peace.
Yeah. I think Prince should run first for this one. I think so. Yeah. I think Prince should run first for this one.
What he say on that Roost joint? He said, hammer cocks and knuckle checks ain't nothing sweet or soft. Win, lose, or draw. Like he said something, right? He sounded like that, right? Anyway, That's a dope song though, by the way, Clones. Oh man, I gotta talk about that. But my thing is, like, as an OG, what I try not to do, and I do this a lot. This is the funny part. I try not to do it, but I end up doing this a lot. As an OG, when I'm with young cats, I'm always like, oh, back in my day, y'all don't know what y'all doing. Y'all doing this, and you doing this wrong, and you ain't even doing this right, and you hustling backwards, and you doing that. I need to stop doing that, man, because that shit is whack, yo. You don't want nobody coming down on you on something unless you ask. You know what I'm saying? Like, because sometimes you say something, right, and you're not even wrong, and then somebody come in and be like, you know, and it's like, I wasn't trying to hear that. And as an OG, you got to remember that, you know, okay, I advise, but when you ask, you know what I mean? Now, if you're doing something crazy, I'm gonna let you know you're doing something crazy. But if not, I'm not gonna give you advice if you ain't even asked for it. So as an OG, I try to really check myself on that. Oh, you young cats don't know how to do this. Like, I really try to get away from that. So to all the OGs, let's not be assholes. Let's not be old fogies. Unless unless somebody asks us or somebody's doing some wild shit, then we should say something. Other than that, we shouldn't be trying to blow down on cats. Word.
Yes.
And I know that, like, when we're talking about what happened in Houston, what's going on in Houston, we should try to focus on the positive. But the thing is, there ain't nothing really positive to focus on, right? But I want to talk about Joel Osteen and his Lakewood church. And let me say this, man. I've been telling y'all that Joel Osteen is a charlatan. I've been telling y'all that for like ever. For some reason, you always want to quote that dude. You always want to talk about that dude and all that. But that dude is a charlatan, man. And the biggest one out of all of them, really, to be honest, because he tries to come off like he's this positive guru dude. Right, but he don't really be saying nothing. He don't really, if you listen to him, he be talking in circles. Anyway, so this is the part that I don't know if it's true or not. They were saying that people came to his church during the hurricane to find refuge and they were turned away. I don't know if that's true or not. I think maybe it was just locked and people were trying to get in. And I don't think there was anybody there to open the doors. I just want to say that. So, I'm not trying to defend him or nothing, but I just kind of see, I don't know how it turned into the situation where he didn't want to. I do know that he tweeted, my prayers are for y'all. And I do know that when people on Twitter asked him, you should open up your doors, they responded with, I don't think it was him. It may have been somebody in his camp. They responded with, our church is flooded. So, like, again, he probably has a PR team. He probably wasn't at his church. He was probably at home in his mansion somewhere in the hills. So he probably wasn't there. Not trying to take away any blame from him, but I could see how it get away. Anyway, he fucked up the whole shit. He's fucked up. But anyway, let me just say this thing first. I don't hold pastors or reverend or anybody to a higher standard than anybody else. And here's why. Don't get me wrong. There are some preachers who go to college and get a degree in divinity. You know what I'm saying? And there's some that they have to apply for that position and get interviewed and all that. And you got to get a license and whatever. I know a friend of mine, he got a license in preaching and stuff like that so he can marry people and stuff like that. Okay. But really, anybody can get up in the morning and say, I'm a preacher and start a church. Literally anybody, right? And that has happened, right? Many times over, right? So that's why I don't hold them to a higher standard, right? Because they make all these claims of being, some of them do marriage counseling, whatever. And most of them, because there's a few of them, most of them don't have licenses or went to school for counseling, but they do this. So literally anybody can get up and be a preacher. People do this all the fucking time. So I don't hold them to a high standard. I don't. I hold the teacher to a high standard because they got to go to school and they got to go to training and they got to get a special license. They got to qualify, etc. They got to take a test. They got to do a whole bunch of things. So I hold them to a high standard because they're vetted. All right. Same thing with like professors. They're vetted, don't get me wrong. Every now and then they'll give like a former politician, a part-time gig as a professor. Really, they call lecturers. If you notice, they're called lecturers unless they have a degree. Anyway, I'm going off tangent. I don't hold these cats to a higher standard because they're just regular people. The thing with Christians and people that follow religion is that they claim to hold a monopoly on morality. They claim to hold a monopoly on what is a good human being. And they claim that, and I'm not saying all of them do, because I know people who are Christian or or theists who don't make these claims, right? Like my mom don't make these claims, right? She's been at a Seventh-day Adventist for years. She holds it down, whatever, but she never makes that claim. But there are people that make that claim. A lot of Christians make that claim, like we're better than everybody. We hold a monopoly of morality. This is how you're supposed to get down with the most righteous. So that's why a lot of people hold them to a particular standard. I don't. You know what I mean? I'm just saying if you make that claim, you got to show and prove. That's all I'm saying. So, but I don't. Just because you make a particular claim don't mean that you out there doing it. So I don't do that. I'm glad he got dragged, and I'm glad motherfuckers saw him for who he really was. And we see that even when he went on TV and tried to clean shit up, it just shows that he's a charlatan and a hustler. The thing is, it ain't gonna change a thing. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna leave it at that. Peace. So here I am at Third Perk. My man Higher Conscious, Leroy Bean, he's doing his book release here in Dayton, Ohio. He got me on the panel. I know it's noisy in the back. I just gotta say this real quick. I was chilling and somebody approached me. They were like, "Yo, did I see you perform at this thing? You just do the poetry?" And I'm like, nah, that's my son. So shout out to B-Boy Sabi, my oldest, who does this thing. And I guess that's the best case of mistaken identity I could ever have, right? Black don't crack, Afro-Dominican punk, you know what I mean? Peace. I never really was a big fan of the Inhumans, right? I do love Black Bolt. Like, he's like my favorite Inhuman. And then my second favorite Inhuman is Miss Marvel, the new one, right? The Pakistani girl. She's dope. I like her. She's dope as fuck. But anyway, I know I talked about one time about how when you're a comic book fan, you kind of like got to deal with a lot of white supremacist, racist shit. And look, I love Jack Kirby, man. And Jack Kirby really changed the game actually when he started comic books. But he created Black Bolt, who's the king of the Inhumans. Now, he's pretty dope. He's originally one of the members of the Illuminati. But one thing that's always bugged me, and I know I joke about this a lot, but Black Bolt's actual name, like the name his folks gave him, is Black Agar Boltigan. Let me rephrase that. Let me repeat that. Black Agar Boltigan. So that's why they get Black Bolt from, right? Black Agar Boltigan. Like, I gotta find out. I still never done the research on it. Let me be honest with you. So I don't know like why he called him that. Again, Black Bolt is dead. If you're not reading Saladin Ahmed's series on him, is pretty dope. So he's like my favorite Inhuman. They're actually the only Inhuman I like. Like, you can get rid of all of them, and I'm cool. I'm not gonna go see the IMAX, and I'm not gonna watch the TV series. So sorry, Marvel. Those TV series on ABC, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that shit, with the exception of Peggy Carter, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., that was dope. But all that other shit is whack. So again, Black Agar Bolt again. People always ask, like, he's not a lover, he's a fighter. He's not a fighter, he's a lover. But I'm gonna say this though, if you're a lover, you gotta be a fighter, man. Like, sometimes you gotta fight for that joint, man. For real. So if you're a lover, you're a fighter. Work. Yeah. Okay, first of all, I just want to say I got mad issues with Floyd Mayweather. Despite the fact that he probably, for his weight division and in his prime, he probably had the fastest game in the business, period. And we'll debate that for his division and his weight division and when he was in his prime. I'm going to say he had the fastest hands, right? Now, bust it. That when he fought against McGregor. Now, we've always had this discussion, this debate ever since MMA came out. Which is the best martial art, that boxers could take anybody out. And let me just say this first. it's one of those things where I think, and I do capoeira, I do calianis, you know, I dabble in kung fu, I do different things, but I'm gonna say this, man, and maybe I'm biased, but if a boxer's nice, nobody could touch him. You know what I mean? Nobody could touch him, and there's just several reasons for that. I'm not even gonna get into it, but I was gonna watch the fight, despite the fact that I have all these issues with Mayweather. You know, he's a wife beater. You know, he's an asshat. I can go on and on, but I was going to watch it, and then when he put out the rules and he said it was going to be straight boxing, I was like, yo, I can't fuck with it. And the reason being is because the only way we can settle that debate, you know, again, I know a boxer will win. The only way we can settle that debate is if you let the MMA guy do his thing. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong. In Japan, you got kumites. In places like Brazil, you have what's called lucha. I can't remember what it means, lucha, but it's like fight, like free fight. And they settle that question all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like some of them are illegal, some of them are legal. You know, some of them you really can't get down with them because people get hurt. But ask any mixed martial artist who's been around, he gonna tell you, man. He gonna tell you. But anyway, this is something I would have done at a professional level. McGregor's nice. I'm gonna give him that. He's nice. I give him props. He's pretty dope. So if he had let, you know, again, I was gonna watch the fight until he said, "Yo, I'm not gonna let you. You're gonna do these are the rules," and he set the terms of the deal. So that leads to number 2. There's a money grab. You know, Floyd is trying to make money. He probably convinced McGregor, and again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. He probably convinced McGregor, like, "Yo, I give you X amount of money if you do this." And let me say this. You know, MMA fighters, they make good money. I'll fight for $4 million, but they ain't making boxing money. You know what I mean? They ain't making that Floyd Mayweather money. No MMA fighter has yet to make, in one fight, they have yet to make, what, $10 million? Like, I think that was the most. And I could be wrong on that. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, so it was a money grab because, you know, number one, well, I should say A, right? A, Floyd ain't going to go out. He wants that 50-0 record. That's what he wanted. You know, McGregor probably would say, you know what, I'll take the L for $75 million. I'd take an L for that too. You know, so he probably took the L. And then finally, since, you know, we really weren't going to answer that debate because, again, Floyd Mayweather set the rules. Nothing was going to be settled. So we didn't really need to see it. I didn't go see it. It's all love. And I did predict, and I should have done it on the show, that it was going to go. I said it was going to go all 12 rounds, and Floyd was going to win by decision, but he went 10 rounds. Again, he wasn't going to lose, and then we don't want to say that, you know, he beat, you know, like McGregor wasn't holding it down, because if you can make it 10 rounds, you're holding it down, right? Anyway, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna bring it up no more. Y'all know how I feel. Word is born. How to approach women. This is part 10 for episode 10, man. Extra chunky episode, right? So check it. Like, one thing I used to do when I was a young blood, and it's something that I really try to tell cats not to do, but I see it all the time. Mansplaining, right? Mansplaining. And there's several different versions of mansplaining. In this situation, when you're meeting somebody new, mansplaining is kind of like just running your fucking mouth. Like just running your mouth about stuff you don't know about. And I think we talked about this before. But it's one of those things where the thing that makes a good conversationalist, and I know we're going back to that, is that you got to kind of listen, right? So what ends up happening is the way you really peg it down and the way you really get her to really buy in is by demonstrating that you can talk. And part of that is listening. I know maybe we should change up the verb or whatever, but so a lot of times what you want to do is when you're talking is you kind of like want to listen, like ask a question, let her answer it, you know what I'm saying? Digest it for a moment. Just kind of like an interview, right? interview, they're going to ask you a question. They actually give you time to digest it a little bit, like, okay, get your thoughts together, and then, say what you got to say, right? So it's kind of like do the same thing. Like, you ask her a question. So, for example, if we're in the library, right, and I see a young lady and I approach her, and then I ask, hey, I see you're holding this book that's titled whatever. What's that book about? Let her explain it. Now, if you've never read that type of genre before, you never read that author before, you never, read, that book at all, just, okay, that's really interesting. Wow. Do you have any suggestions? Boom. That's how you do it. Don't start talking about the 5 books you just read or the book you have in your hand and just start running your mouth. You're mansplaining. You're trying to hear all that. So try to really show her that you're really listening and you care about what she's trying to say. And you do that, man. I'm telling you, man. That's one thing women complain about us. We don't listen. So that'll help you out. I hope that helps out. Don't mansplain. Just pay attention. Peace. One thing I encounter a lot is that people, and I don't know, I guess it's because when it comes to health, we look at what other people are doing. We look at how other people are looking, you know what I'm saying? So we'll see somebody with a 6-pack. Well, it's actually an 8-pack, by the way. It's not a 6-pack, but it's an 8-pack. And then they're like, what are they doing to do that, right? What are they doing? P90X? Are they doing this? Are they on this diet? And they want those results. Again, refer to the previous 2 episodes where I talk about how we shouldn't peg our standards to somebody else's body type because everybody's body type is different. Our metabolisms are different. Our habits are different. So you shouldn't do that. Anyway, people are always confused as to, what should I do? Where should I start? And I'm not going to lie. I'm the type of person that I prefer that the people that I train create good habits that they can continue for the rest of their lives. And they can maintain it without it really being a big disruption and or something that they don't want to do when they don't want to do it. You see what I'm saying? So everybody can't be a gym rat because when it's when you're having a bad day, you know what I'm saying? And it's raining or snowing, your chances of you going to the gym are very, they drop. So do something that you like, something that you want. So that way on the days that you might not want to do it, you end up doing it anyway. So one good suggestion that I give people is walking. And I know that this doesn't pertain to people that live in places like New York, where you do a lot of walking, right? New York City, you do a lot of walking. So those people out there are always doing a lot of walking. So they kind of have no choice. But anywhere else, I noticed because when I left New York, I had to get used to driving. I had to get used to sitting down a lot because public transportation in cities outside of major cities usually sucks. And I realized that I live in the Midwest now, so I realized that in the Midwest is very sedentary. Plus, it gets cold, for long periods of time. I think we get, in Ohio we get 33% less sunshine than the rest of the country. I think something like that. It's either the Midwest or Ohio. Anyway, it was always snowing, so a lot of times we end up hibernating, right? But what I noticed here is that people don't walk. They just don't walk. The only people that don't walk are people that don't have cars, right? It's you have to walk, but everybody else doesn't walk. So a lot of us will leave our homes, maybe walk a few feet to our cars, drive to work, and then walk a few feet to our offices or whatever it is we do, and we don't walk. So it's that really is not healthy, right? So one thing I tell people to do is walk, just walk. It's the simplest exercise to do. It's easy. You can listen to music. You can listen to a podcast like mine. You could, or just go with a friend and talk, and it'll go by like that. And walking is just so easy. And I think I know people that do it, that, they were older. So, their bodies weren't as strong and they took longer to recover. And they walked and, they took off the weight. They felt healthier, they drank water and everything. So I think walking is probably something that you can do that's fairly easy. It's low impact. Don't expect to lose pounds consistently. You're not going to feel better automatically, like people say, but it's just an easy thing to do as a habit. I try to try to use walking more than, say, for example, take the elevator. I try to use walking, or instead of like, I'll park far away from the store and then I'll walk. You know what I'm saying? Like I take the longer way to stuff. People look at me like I'm crazy, but it's just good exercise and it just keeps you, healthy. So that's my advice for you this week. Peace. I know I already did a nice build on Dick Gregory, but there was something I discovered the other day that I really was like, wow, like just he has so many layers of him that we don't even know, and we actually didn't have a chance to pay homage to. So number one, I just want to say this. I talked about it last time. I talked about how when it came to health and being healthy and eating healthy and all that, Dick Gregory been on that. And that's like when I went to see him lecture, that's what he talked about mostly. Being healthy. So that's something that the kick that he's been on, and he had a big influence on how I got down and everything. Anyway, there was an article on Medium.com from the Still Crew group. I guess it's a writers group, and they post a lot of stuff on Medium, but it's stillcrew.com, and crew is spelled CREW. This person by the name of David Dennis Jr. He also writes at the Smoking Section, Up Rocks, with Spandex, and at Still Crew. David Dennis Jr. He wrote a piece on how Dick Gregory forced the FBI to find the bodies of 3 civil rights workers slain in Mississippi. Some of y'all might remember that from that horrible movie, Mississippi Burning. Lord, that was a horrible movie. It's a good example of whitewashing, though. That's if you want to see a good example of how Hollywood whitewashes, that's a good example of it. Anyway, the 3 civil rights activists, James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Mickey Schwerner, were killed by several white men down in Mississippi. And Dick Gregory was kind of like the one that really shifted that whole investigation. And really, David Dennis says that if it wasn't for Dick Gregory, they probably wouldn't have found out who did it. You know what I'm saying? Actually, and there's a story how Dick Gregory confronts the sheriff, and everybody kind of knew that the sheriff had something to do with it, but no one could really provide any proof for that. Everybody just kind of knew. The Deputy Sheriff Cecil Ray Price, who was actually part of the lynch mob, and he actually was a chief investigator for the entire thing. It's crazy, right? But there was an encounter between him and Dick Gregory, and Dick Gregory did it because Dick Gregory kind of knew that Price was involved, but he needed to see him face to face. And once he met with him, he knew automatically he was down with it, and he kind of really put the pressure on that. It's kind of crazy because Dick Gregory's not even mentioned in the movie Mississippi Burning, or even any other discussion of the murder of those civil rights workers and subsequent investigations. So let's just shout out to Dick Gregory once again, man. Word. And I'm gonna put that article in the show notes. So if you could allow me to geek out again, this has to do with bootleg VHS. I know, I love Silver Surfer. I'm not a big fan, but I love Silver Surfer, particularly Jack Kirby. I know I'm crazy about it. I just talk junk about him, right? But I think Marvel came out on the Fox Kid Network. They came out with this Marvel show of the Silver Surfer, and it was actually pretty dope. Executive produced by, or should I say executively produced by, the great Stan Lee and Avi Arad. Y'all know that guy. He did mad stuff. He produced mad stuff. So look him up. And I think there's a NPR podcast that actually did a nice piece on him. From the ground up, I think it's called, or How We Built This. How We Built This on NPR. They had a nice little joint on him. Anyway, this Silver Surfer joint, it was only one season. I think it was 10 episodes. And I remember like I watched like the first 3 episodes. You know, like the first 2 episodes, like the origin of the Silver Surfer when he was Norman Rad. It's a pretty dope name, Norman Rad, right? Why couldn't black folk get that name, right? But anyway, that's how he becomes a herald of Galactus. And Galactus is this world-devouring dude that he goes around, he eats planets. And people kind of like, people are mad scared of him, but at the same time, he's needed because he's like something that needs to like bring balance to the universe or something. But that's something we'll get into later. Anyway, it gets really, really, really deep. Like, and I remember I watched like the first 3 episodes, and then because it was on Fox Kid Network, and my schedule was crazy, so I couldn't really watch TV regularly at that time. So I had to like get it on bootleg VHS. So I got it on bootleg VHS and I watched it, and I think I watched it like 3 or 4 times, and man, it's dope. It's on Netflix, so if you want to watch it, you can check it out. It gets real deep. Talk about mortality, immortality. They get into where you find the moral compass, and Silver Surfer has issues with Galactus and everything, and it's real dope, and I think people should check it out. And it's probably, to me, one of the best Marvel cartoon shows put out, next to the X-Men series that came out in the 90s. So I'm gonna get into that later too. But check it out on Netflix. Word.
Lord of mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now, mercy, all night and days and crew. Follow me now.
So we're gonna do this Defenders review. I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. You know how I do it here. I do the good, bad, and the ugly. So just some background. Like the Defenders you see on the screen, they just released a comic book on Marvel Comics a couple of weeks ago. Actually, a couple of months ago. Because the Defenders that you see now are not actually the original Defenders. The Defenders were started by Doctor Strange. And I don't think any of the members you see now were there originally. Actually, none of them were, actually. And then they came on later on. And then when they were redone, you see like some of the characters like Iron Fist in there. But they have a new edition out. And it has those members, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Iron Fist. Danny Rand is Iron Fist. So I just wanted to give you that information first before we get into the reviews. It's only 8 episodes. And let me just warn you, they are going to be spoilers. And also, if you have not watched any of the other shows, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Daredevil seasons 1 and 2, you're probably going to be very lost when you watch this because they kind of really put everybody together. And it also focuses on Iron Fist, which to me, Iron Fist is probably the worst Netflix series of all of them. And you got to kind of like muscle through that. So you might have to go watch all of Iron Fist to really understand what's going on, because it picks up right after the end of Iron Fist. So here we go. So we're going to start off, of course, with the good. I think the writing was actually pretty good. I think that, how they again, you have to watch the other shows so that way, because it jumps right into it. Like at the end of Iron Fist, the Hand had destroyed Kunlun, and then they killed everybody there. And then you see Danny Rand chasing, trying to find members of the Hand. And he ends up finding a member of the Chaste, which is a group that's headed by several people, particularly Stick, who trained Daredevil, and Elektra was a member of it. So you get a chance to see that connection first. So it starts off right there, and he actually fights Elektra. So immediately they start connecting all the characters, right? Then, for example, Jessica Jones gets arrested later, and then Matt Murdock defends her. And then she follows him and realizes that he's not who he says he is. and he follows her to make sure she's okay. Luke Cage runs into Danny Rand when Danny Rand is investigating something that one of the Hand is doing. So in the first 2 to 3 episodes, they link up quickly, like they automatically run into each other. And the usual Marvel Comics thing, they fight each other first, and then they team up because they realize they're on the same team. So they immediately do that. They make the connections quick. Claire also introduces, when she finds out that Luke Cage meets Danny Rand, she reintroduces them and pretty much convinces them to work together. So again, quickly, it jumps really quickly into it. So there's not like a lot of background, unless you have to watch the other shows to know who these characters are. Probably my favorite thing is that they bring in all the supporting cast. Like they bring in Claire from Luke Cage, they bring in Misty Knight, they bring in Connie Wing, they bring in Stick from Daredevil, they bring in one of the villains from The Hand, they bring in Madame Gao, they bring in Foggy Nelson, they bring in everybody from the previous shows. They bring in all the supporting cast, and I think it works. They bring in Hogarth. They bring everybody in there, and it really, 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 really works. I like that. That's probably because for the other shows, what I love the most about the other shows is the supporting cast, because they have a strong supporting cast. So I think those are my 2 favorite things. Now, people have issues with the fight scenes. The fight scenes weren't that great, I will admit to it. But remember that they're fighting as a group, and it's kind of like hard to fight as a group. Whereas you see the Avengers are all experienced in their own way, so they can work together as a group. Whereas with the Defenders, this is their first outing together. They're usually loners. They're usually rebels. And actually, what I like about this Defenders is that in the comic book, when Doctor Strange put the Defenders together, he put people together that usually were loners and rebels, and they worked together. So that's probably why the fight scenes weren't there, but I dug it. Because we know Jessica Jones can't really fight, right? That's number one. Daredevil is probably the strongest out of the bunch, meaning he knows how to fight. He knows how to use his powers well. Whereas Danny Rand is still not sure of himself. He still doesn't know what he's there. And remember that Kunlun was destroyed, and that was supposed to be the place that he protected. So that's the good right there. Now we're going to talk about the bad. Danny Rand. Danny Rand is bad. He's gotten better, but he's like the weak link. I really think he's like the weak link. Now, I will say that the chemistry between him and Luke Cage was funny to a certain point, and it kind of worked for a second, but it's kind of like it didn't work. Like, they got to replace that guy. Like, it has to be done. It was better, and I think he stepped his game up because everybody that he was with, the woman that plays Jessica Jones, my man that plays Luke Cage, the guy that plays Matt Murdock, they really forced him to step up. And I think that really saved the show. But he was horrible in Iron Fist. I can't express how much that, didn't work out. And of course, I really dislike, and look, I love Sigourney Weaver. But they kind of like when she came on, I think they need to put more background on her to see who she was. And I know they had 8 episodes to do that, only 8. But I really felt like they didn't give us enough of who she is and her character. We learned that the villains, and they introduced Sigourney Weaver, and they introduced 2 other members of the Hand who were like the original people that started the Hand that left Kunlun oh so long ago. So that was pretty dope, but no background. No background on these people. So Sigourney Weaver shows up. She's the one that's in charge. Madame Gao takes the, background. And I thought that was whack because I really, really, really love Madame Gao. So those are the issues that I had with. Those were the bad. Now we're going to finish off with the ugly. One of my biggest issues with the show is that Claire, Claire just became Luke Cage's girlfriend. Like, and I know that's his girl, right? Like, I get it, right? But she was in Daredevil. She saved Daredevil. You know what I mean? She saved Luke Cage. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, she kind of like, with Danny Rand. You know what I'm saying? Like, she really, Claire saved Iron Fist. Like, Iron Fist would have been whack if it wasn't for Claire and actually Madame Gao and Davos, who was Danny Rand's homeboy from Kunlun. But anyway, I hate the fact that Claire just became his girlfriend, and it's kind of like they put her in that status, even though she was the glue that put everybody together. And actually, in episode 2, she introduces Danny Rand to Luke Cage, like reintroduces them. So that really bothered me, because I really liked her character, and I kind of like expected more from that. So I was kind of mad at that. But hey, I don't know why they did that, but I think that I know they put Danny Rand as a central focus of the show because the Hand needed the Iron Fist to come back to Kunlun and remain immortal. I get that, but Claire was like crucial in like everybody's origins or whatever. So, and for them to prevail, she was very crucial in that. So I didn't like that too tough. And you know what? The ending wasn't all that great. Like, the last episode wasn't all that great. Like when you have a group together, a group of heroes is supposed to be like a climactic battle, and it just wasn't there. And I know it was awkward for someone because like Jessica Jones can't fight, but they could have done it differently. I don't know. And I'm not the person that's writing the show, so I can't think of anything else. But that's it right there for you, ladies and gentlemen. Out of 5 stars, I give it 3.5. Because there was some elements that it needed. But overall, it's a good start. I'm looking forward to if they ever get greenlit for Defenders 2. So there you have it. There's my 2 cents. Yo, I gotta end it with shout outs though. Shout out to my man Leroy Bean and his book release, Love and Theory of Womanology, is on Amazon, so go get it. Again, Leroy Bean, Love and Theory of Womanology. He had me speak on the panel at his book release party, which was dope. So that was, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate giving me the opportunity to run my mouth. As you can see, I love running my mouth. Also give a shout out to my man Aaron of AP2 Photography. That brother's dope. Like, his photography is dope. But all around, he's a dope brother. He's the one that hit Leroy Bean to me. So definitely shout out to him. He's like my biggest fan, greatest supporter. So I love you, brother. And also Hamza, the Seventh Son, who actually released a single called With My Killa Tape. So that's kind of dope. So hopefully I'm going to download that sometime this week. So I could probably play some of it on the show. So that would be really dope. So shout out to y'all, man.
As I come back, bullets for best don't leak like Aquafina trash, nigga. These shots will swell you bigger than Katina ass, nigga. Got couple left for opio and A+. Watch how the gauge bust. As I come back, hey Bobolina, Mr. Bob Dobalina ass, nigga. Back to get quicker and then I spit him at.
Yo, there you have it, man. Episode 10. Hey, man, if anybody is want to sponsor, brother, yo, let me know, man. Let me know, man. Just let me know. I just don't sponsor any like unhealthy shit. You know what I mean? So come through. If y'all have any questions, you can hit me up at Omi's Podcast on Twitter. That's OMISPOD cast. I don't know why I spelled pod, right? Or you can hit me up at Dantres Omi, DANTRESOMI on Twitter, which is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If y'all want to send a shout out, let me know what's up, man. We could work something out. If y'all want to do a segment, like audio recorder, because I don't have all that new fly equipment yet. So, but definitely do that, man. If you want to hit a brother up with some loot, let me know. So, again, appreciate y'all for listening and showing me mad love. Again, a lot of love, yo. And I get a lot of DMs, too. So, thanks again. Hopefully we get another 10 episodes under my belt. Peace.
about your mask?